Hey guys, so t today is October 10th, Thursday, and it's a rather dark day today for many, many people. The unthinkable happened, and Donald Trump is the 45th president of the United States. I never thought I would be saying those words. Um, Honestly, I never thought that the American people would honestly and earnestly elect such a man. I really didn't. Of course, part of that was because of the terror reading I performed on the day of the election. Um, it was wrong. It was extremely wrong. However, it it wasn't my cards that were wrong. I was wrong. My cards were right. I just failed to see them. Um, and that's okay. If that ever happens to anyone, just accept it for what it is and use it as a learning experience. You know, um, there's nothing wrong with being wrong per se. You know, it's it helps you learn and grow with more experience. Um, so don't take any shame in that whatsoever. Uh, but I wanted to go through my cards again and sort of pontificate about what I believe they were really trying to tell me. Because part of the reason why so many people will get an incorrect reading is and this is why some readers don't like reading for themselves, because there's so much emotion involved. They don't want to see what's right in front of their faces. And that's true for many of us, particularly we water signs, or those of us who have a lot of water signs in their chart. We're extremely emotional, and we don't want to be the bearer of bad news, particularly if it affects us. Uh, Honestly, I am at a loss for words. I cannot tell you what I think a Donald Trump presidency will be like. Um, I'm not scared. I'm not excited. I'm not really even angry. I'm just I'm not so much numb. I'm not really even pensive. I'm just sort of trying to take it in as it comes. Um, Although those who know me know that I supported neither candidate. I couldn't in good consciousness support Trump or Clinton. They were both horrible candidates, although one was more horrible than the other. However, if he hadn't have taken the route that he had and gone completely xenophobic, they would have been an even match anyway. But I digress. I would like to go through my cards and sort of uh, explain to you what I think they were telling me. And again, this is the Sun Tarot deck. Sun as in S-O-N, as in one's sibling or one's progeny. The Sun Tarot deck by Christopher Butler, and I can't tell you how much I love this deck. It's become my new. I hate to say it because I might make my other deck jealous, but it's sort of become my new primary deck, and I'm kind of excited about that. But before I get into the cards specifically, I wanted to mention that something I think that I have learned from this experience as a tarot reader is um, when it comes to elections, because they are so malleable to individual whims at a moment's notice, even, that I don't think I will be using set card placement meanings for each candidate, because if I had read it as simply just a generic all-purpose 3-card reading for each candidate, I think my reading would have been much more accurate than what it was. But when I tried to interpret my cards using those specific um, card placement meanings, it threw me off. And that's something that I have learned personally from that experience. Um, but, back to my cards. The first card I drew for Hillary Clinton was, and I will be doing these in 3-card sets. The first one for Hillary and the second one for Donald Trump. So the first of 3 cards for Hillary I drew was the Sun. And usually, when I draw the Sun card, it usually indicates a friendship, a new and burgeoning friendship, where you just have so much in common with the other person that it's just unreal. It's just such a surprise. It's uncanny. I have um, I was chatting with a couple of new people that I had just made acquaintances with, and for both of them, we just had so much in common on so many different levels that I was shuffling my cards using the ancient Italian tarot deck by Lo Scarabeo, and for each one I drew the Sun card, which really surprised me because the second time I shuffled that deck every which way you can imagine, and I was really surprised to get the Sun card again. So that was very that was very that was a great example of synchronicity in my life. Because synchronicity is um, when something so psychologically profound or meaning happens to you that it cannot really be the result of chance alone. Even physicists accept that. But where I think I went wrong with this interpretation is that the sun is, well, physically the sun is blinding if you look at it. It is the center of the solar system. It is the center of um, of reality in a sense. It is, uh, to bastardize a phrase, it is the center of the fucking universe. It is the all important, the life sustainer. It is, if there is no sun, there is just nothing. It is this, oh god, it just is. It is the glorious life sustainer. It is, oh, well, in terms of astrology, even, it underscores this concept that it is the ego. It is all about me, 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 mine, mine, mine. It blinds you to everything else around you. And that is what I believe that card was indicating. It was blinding. Well, the Democrats were blind to what was happening around them. They were so sure of themselves that they couldn't see that the rug was being pulled out from under them, that they didn't have the support they thought they did, and it really boils down to the fact that they imposed Hillary Clinton upon us, even though um, she didn't win the primary in, well, let me put it this way, Bernie Sanders did not lose the primary fairly. Anyone who examines exit polls like I do, um, or the way the Democratic committee behaved towards him, can easily see that he did not lose the primary fairly, and we knew this. And if that weren't bad enough, um, Hillary took every advantage she could to really rub salt into our wounds and to spit on our faces and to slap us across the face. For example, she promoted Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was vilified and who was unable to give a speech at the primaries because she would have been booed off the stage. And she gave a speech in Philadelphia to some at a Democratic function, and she was booed off the stage. Um, so that was extremely hurtful. And the next card you will know, if you saw my other video, is the Ten of Swords, the card of utter defeat. It's a sword through the heart, which is really what the Democratic Party must be feeling right now. Hillary Clinton supporters are certainly feeling that now. I during the elections on Tuesday, when people began to see that she was losing to Trump, people were not only leaving the auditorium, but her supporters in particular were hugging each other and they were crying. And one cannot help but feel sorry for that. I'm human. I understand heartbreak. I'm very empathetic for it. But again, the Democratic Party has only themselves to blame. Um, no one else. It was their fault for imposing a candidate upon us that couldn't win. And we told them from the very beginning, if you do this, she will lose. And of course, the third card was the Six of Cups, the card of nostalgia, the card of the party asking itself, what did we do wrong? And already I have been hearing them say that it was Bernie Sanders' fault that they didn't win. It was third party's fault that they didn't win. Everything else except them. It was the voters' fault that they didn't win even. They've been blaming the voters, which is astonishing. No one has ever blamed the voters before. But they were so sure of themselves that they couldn't accept that Hillary Clinton couldn't have won. But she lost. She wasn't really talking to the people. It seems so much about a cult of personality that her slogan was, I'm with her. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear that you are with me. That you are with me in my struggle because I don't have the millions of dollars that you do. So if I hope that the Democratic Party learns an extremely valuable lesson from this experience, that they move either back to center rather than center right, or they move to the left. Because that is why Bernie Sanders was so successful. He is the most beloved senator in our nation's history. But I was actually surprised when I began to see CNN reporting during the protests that were going on last night that the people protesting in these cities across the country were in fact blaming the Democratic Party itself for a Donald Trump victory, and they have every right to. It was the Democratic Party's fault for this failure. No one else. It wasn't Bernie Sanders. It wasn't the voters. It wasn't third parties. It was the Democratic Party, because they thought they knew best when in fact they didn't. Okay, now on to Donald Trump's three-card spread. The first card I drew for him was the Nine of Pentacles. which is an extremely successful individual, financially well off. Even very narcissistic, he enjoys the finer things in life. It's just a huge card of success. Um, you know, that is a clear indication of Trump's personality himself. And then the card that really surprised me was the second one I drew for him, which is the Seven of Wands, which is the card of, in magical terms, it's the card of protection. And here, in this case, it was, God, it was, oh, the elections were a nail biter. Uh, they went from a nail biter to a bloodbath. And that's really what it was. This card totally signified that the underdog, the person who everyone thought was an underdog, won against encroaching odds. It was just a total upset of what everyone thought they knew. And of course, the third card in his spread was the Ten of Cups, utter emotional contentment and success with what you have done in your life up until this point. So my cards were absolutely correct, but I was wrong. And I totally own up to that. That is fine. Sometimes that does happen. But uh, why Donald Trump won is another story entirely. And I hadn't shuffled my deck. My deck was, I put my deck away and it just laid as is for a couple days. And I decided to look at the shadow card to see what it could tell me um, pertaining to the elections and why Trump won. And the card that came up is an extremely poignant card. It absolutely epitomizes, in my view, why he won. And that is the Six of Pentacles, or Six of Coins in some decks. Very often this card will signify charity, but more and more lately I have been interpreting it as the have-nots of society getting the cast-off, the crumbs of the upper oligarchy, um, of the plutocrats, of the not the patriarchy, of the proletariat. Um, and that is absolutely what you see in this card. Hands reaching up, desperate for something, for crumbs, from someone who could do so much more for them, but they're not. And that is why the Democratic Party failed. Because for the past 30 years, they have been ignoring the working class. And it's finally come back to bite them on the ass. Um, the reason why Trump won is because of the Rust Belt states, the states that are responsible for so much industry in this country, the car manufacturers, for example. They're all industries throughout the Rust Belt states that created the middle class, which is collapsing, and it has been collapsing for a long time. And Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party in general has been ignoring those people. They have been struggling, and the Democratic Party has just forgotten about them. The if well, Donald Trump, what he did was he actually spoke to them. He actually spoke to them like a person. He was unscripted. That is what he did. That is also what Bernie Sanders does. If you come to us and you speak to us from script, that just reeks of someone who's phony, who doesn't really speak from the heart. But we want someone who speaks from the heart. If you go to any of the Rust Belt states, you will see the people there are just despotic. They are defeated. They just no longer have any drive, any sense of purpose. They just they just look so depressed and so defeated by everyone that they have just lost utter hope. And that is why Donald Trump won, because Hillary Clinton to them was just more of the establishment, of the status quo that had abandoned them and forgotten about them. And if the Democrats do not learn this lesson, and soon, we may never regain Congress, the Senate, or the presidency for a very long time. And if they blame anyone else but themselves, that is exactly what we may get in the long run. And I hope to the gods that they do learn this extremely valuable lesson. I have been saying for a while now that what I think the Democrats need is a loss, a big loss, that it would be an extremely bitter pill for them to swallow, that they would have to reappraise themselves and to examine where it is they went wrong and to try and correct that. Um, a lot of people, however, believe that a big loss such as this would actually cause the Democrats to do the opposite, such as Starhawk. Starhawk, for instance, believes that a massive loss like this would cause the Democrats to move even further to the right than what they are now, because now the entire party is center right, and and moving further right would be the wrong thing to do, because we progressives have been bitching at them for years, and we finally feel as though we are in a place of political power, in a sense that we are a large enough body that they really need to start taking us and what we are speaking for into account if they are to survive as a viable party. Um, I really hope they learn this lesson. I have been trying to contact my local branches of the Democratic Party because I am a socialist, um, but that does not mean that I do not try and reach out to other political parties to try and talk with them because, like it or not, um, no one has voted a socialist into office. Um, that is a state office, that represents a governing body for the state itself. In Washington, they have um, Shama Swatch, who is socialist, and she is an amazing woman. But she was elected to a uh, a a, 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 a public seat in Seattle, but not within the state itself. She wasn't elected as senator or congresswoman, but that would be amazing if we could actually get some socialists in Congress and Senate at the state level and then up into higher levels of government. I would love to see that. Um, but I have been trying to contact local Democratic Party leaders for months, and they have utterly been ignoring me. They haven't responded to me yet. I might actually try and call them next because I've been emailing them and they have just been ignoring me. Just a blanket ignore, like click delete, click block. They've just been ignoring me like none other. Which is a shame because you would think that this is Iowa. There's not much to do here. You'd think that they would at least try and respond, even if it's a forum letter, and you would not believe how often I get a forum letter from someone in in an elected position, which is really really offensive. You know, if it were me, I would try and respond um, individually. So that is my spiel today, and I wish you well. And just remember, tomorrow is a brighter day. You just have to keep fighting, no matter what happens in your life. Now is not the time to give up. You get out there. You get off your ass. You get into the streets. You write. You call. You phone bank. You do everything you possibly can to try and change the world in which we live. You donate to charity. You volunteer your time. You help the homeless. You help the disadvantaged. You help people because we are in this together. We are our brothers and sisters. We need to fight for the greater good, like our lives depend on it, because they do. And just know that I'm fighting for you, and I hope that you will fight for me also. So I will see you later. Bye bye.